Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
We've heard stories about bureaucracy and how difficult it is to straighten something out that the government gets wrong. We've even heard stories about people who've been declared dead, who turns out were very much alive. In fact, that one right there's a plot point in some comedies. There's an episode of MASH where Hawkeye is declared dead despite the fact he is very much alive. And they notify his father that he's passed away. And he's, of course, in Korea trying to, deal with the fact that his father's on the other side of the world thinking he's dead. Well, there's a story that Jordan sent me out of Indiana. 13 NBC WTHR ran this. Bob Siegel wrote it. Indiana man begging to be alive. Denied stimulus checks because the IRS insists that he is in fact dead. The man claims he's not dead. I saw video. The man insists he's not dead. But once the government says you're dead, you got problems. So Bobby Musgrove is in training. This summer, he hopes to become one of the first dialysis patients to hike all 2,100 miles of the Appalachian Trail. For a guy with serious kidney disease, he is in really good shape, but don't tell the IRS that because they think he's dead. He told 13 News, and he repeated himself to make sure it's clear, the IRS believes I'm deceased. And that's the designation the IRS uses on the Bobby Musgrove file because, in fact, he is deceased according to their records, and their records could not be wrong. After just a few minutes talking with Bobby and observing him closely, it's pretty clear he's still alive. So there's something wrong here. So he said, yeah, I'm still here. Definitely not dead. But he's got a good sense of humor. But being killed off by the IRS is a serious problem that strained his patience because thinking he's dead, he never got his first stimulus check, or the second, or the third. He also says the IRS owes him several years of tax refunds. But why would they refund a dead man? The man's from Columbus, Indiana. He says in total the IRS now owes him more than $10,000 because of this mix-up. He said, that's a lot of income I really need. I'm begging to be alive in the system and can't do it. It started with a confusing letter from the SSA offering condolences about his death. He immediately contacted the Social Security Administration to alert the agency of the mistake. A month later, Social Security sent him an apology. And you can't send an apology to a dead man. So when they sent him a letter apologizing, you think, well, they're obviously now aware of their mistake. But the damage has been done. Social Security had already included Bobby's demise in its death master file, which is shared with the IRS. And once the IRS thinks you're dead, you are pretty much dead. In fact, I saw a 60 Minutes episode on this, on people who'd been put on that death master file. And once you're on the death master file, it's almost as if the Grim Reaper himself keeps a book. And once he uses his finger to put your name in the book, you're done. A Villanova law professor, Leslie Book, says it's difficult to unwind the information once it's in the IRS system that someone is dead. Whatever the source of the problem is, you'd think it would be easier to fix. That it's persisted this long is troubling. The problem has persisted in Bobby's case for 2 years, despite his repeated requests to the IRS to revive him in the agency's records. He even visited the downtown Indianapolis office of the IRS so he could meet face-to-face with someone on the staff. He says he took his birth certificate, which seems like overkill when you're standing there face-to-face with somebody. Look, I was born. I understand, I'm joking. It's ID. But he also brought state ID, previous tax returns, and so on. That still wasn't enough to get the problem resolved. He said, well, they looked at me and said, we believe you, but they still couldn't fix anything. They say it's a Social Security problem and that Social Security needs to fix it. I talked to Social Security. They say it's an IRS problem the IRS needs to fix. And I've talked to the highest people I can talk to. So two agencies are both pointing at the other people. While it is unclear just how prevalent this problem is within the IRS, the TV station has determined Bobby is far from alone. Earlier this year, 2 Kansas residents reported they could not access stimulus checks or file tax returns because they are also considered dead by the IRS. Now, several people are bound to comment because they haven't gotten this far in the video, and then they'll re-comment, but they're going to comment and say, hey, if I'm dead, I can stop paying taxes. Oh, you'd think so. But you and I both know what's going to happen is if you don't file taxes, then this problem ever gets straightened out, they're going to come back and get you for failure to file. So you can't win that way. So there's a veteran named Franklin Jackson, and he says that the IRS owes him more than $4,000 because an agency representative told him somebody hit the wrong key, triggering a 2-year battle as Jackson tried to convince the IRS that he is actually not dead. There's another woman named Shakira Evans, also battled the IRS for years, trying to collect her tax refunds after the IRS classified her as deceased. The irony, of course, is how did she file the return if she's dead? I understand an estate can file a return, but you'd think that someone just filing a return, they go, oh, someone mailed it to us, and they're asking for a refund in their name, unless they actually think the person deceased between the filing of the return and the receipt of the return. Every time I contact the IRS, they tell me to wait. She says, wait for what? How long will it take to go into their system and change a simple error? She asked during an interview with the Philly Voice a couple years ago. My children and I are suffering at the hands of the IRS. Someone just needs to do their job and fix this. How much more do they need? There's also an English teacher from central Pennsylvania named Pat Lohman, declared dead by the IRS. She thought she had the problem resolved in 2019, but last year, when she tried to file her tax return, the IRS notified her that it had placed a lock on her Social Security number because IRS records show that it belongs to a deceased person. She told the Allentown Morning Call, I've been very frustrated, annoyed, angry. I feel like I've done all that I could possibly do. Taxpayers in Tennessee, New York, Utah, and other states have reported the same thing happening to them. They were all left for dead by the IRS, even after trying to prove they're very much alive. We shouldn't have to deal with a system that requires over 2 years to prove that you're alive. That's frankly just unacceptable. Book told 13 News. The law professor said the IRS has struggled for years to provide adequate customer service. And the COVID-19 pandemic has made things even worse. I think most people would assume it's a universal concept that the IRS and customer service do not ever belong in the same sentence except when mocking them. Even before the pandemic, the IRS had a challenge in successfully communicating with taxpayers. So you have a perfect storm of circumstances coming together now where the IRS is really having a hard time meeting basic standards of service. We deserve better as a society and as citizens from our government. Now, 13 Investigates, which is a TV station again, contacted the IRS to ask questions about the delay in resolving Bobby's case. Can you guess what they said? Law and regulations do not allow us to comment on the status of any tax matter of a taxpayer. Can't talk about it. They did, however, ask for the contact information and offer to find a solution as quickly as possible. 2 weeks later, Bobby said he is still considered dead with the IRS, and no one from the agency ever reached out to him. He said, there's got to be somebody who can fix this. I understand mistakes can be made. I do, but the issue is mistakes can be fixed. It shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard. So again, the man was declared dead by somebody. Social Security Administration or the IRS, they both blame each other. And once that happens, it is apparently almost impossible to get undone because people don't come back to life, right? So once you're dead, you're dead. And it's almost as if they refuse to admit they could make mistakes. And I understand the idea that you don't want people to steal identities of people who are deceased. That makes sense. So there is a concern in this arena. There's something they should be watching out for. And they should be watching out for somebody who comes back to life and suddenly starts filing stuff under a Social Security number that's attached to somebody who is deceased. But you think they'd do some more work the second somebody says, look, I'm still alive. Like, for instance, the same way that you have a birth certificate, there really ought to be a death certificate. And so the obvious thing to ask is, does Bobby Musgrove have a death certificate yet? Because he shouldn't, at least not this guy. And if somebody comes up with one and says, look, no, here one is, this is what caused the confusion. You'd simply look at it and compare it to the birth certificate and look if the information appears to correlate to the same person. So I know a lot of people haven't spent a lot of time with death certificates. I've actually spent quite a bit of time doing research for books I've written. And there's a lot of information on them, especially now. And so you can actually look at them and determine whether or not it's the same person that you found back here with a birth certificate. So this is something that they should be able to straighten out. I understand why there's a concern and they're careful about it, but it's obviously gone too far. So here, WTHR Indianapolis, NBC 13, has got their story on it. Like I said, 60 Minutes did a story on it. It's something that's been a well-known problem for years, and that is that once the federal government thinks you're dead and declares you dead, it's pretty much like you're dead. And coming back to life is probably easier biologically than it is legally. So crazy story out of Indiana. But Jordan, thanks for sending it. I find this stuff fascinating, and I feel bad for Bobby and the other people in the story because they probably did nothing to cause this. Somebody apparently said that it was a fat finger. It was simply a typographical error. Somebody hit the wrong button. And once you hit that wrong button, it takes years to straighten out, and that's assuming you can straighten it out. So Indiana man begging to be alive, denied stimulus checks because the IRS insists he's dead. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Comedy is simply a funny way of being serious.